Hello fellow gardeners, and welcome back to Smart Garden. Stop struggling with tired, unproductive soil. In just a few minutes, you'll learn about 5 extraordinary perennial herbs that hold the key to effortlessly building deep, nutrient-rich earth. These aren't just pretty plants, they're living soil factories, enriching your garden, boosting biodiversity, and even sequestering carbon. Prepare to transform your approach to gardening forever. The silent soil builders. A hidden history. Imagine standing before 2 garden patches, one barren, cracked and lifeless, the other teeming with earthworms, dark with humus, and practically humming with vitality. What if ancient wisdom held the key to transforming your garden, effortlessly? For centuries before the rise of industrial agriculture and its dependence on synthetic inputs, farmers and gardeners relied on perennial herbs that worked silently beneath the surface, building soil year after year, without replanting, without tillage, and without chemical intervention. These botanical allies were the original soil builders, their roots penetrating deep into the earth's layers, while their foliage cycled nutrients back to the surface in an endless dance of regeneration. These forgotten plants weren't chosen randomly by our ancestors. They were cultivated precisely because they created the conditions for abundant growth around them, acting as living infrastructure that supported entire ecosystems. Today, we're rediscovering 5 remarkable perennial herbs that embody these regenerative principles. Comfrey, alfalfa, yarrow, stinging nettle, and lovage each possesses extraordinary abilities to create humus, sequester carbon, and transform neglected patches into vibrant, self-sustaining ecosystems. Their disappearance from modern gardens represents not just a loss of botanical diversity, but a severing of our connection to soil-building practices that sustained civilizations for millennia. Let's start by unearthing herb number 1 and number 2, the true root revolutionaries. Comfrey stands as perhaps the most celebrated dynamic accumulator in the plant kingdom, though, honestly, many modern gardeners have never even encountered it. This powerhouse herb sends down taproots that can extend 10 feet or more into the subsoil, mining minerals and nutrients that are completely inaccessible to shallow-rooted annual crops. As these roots penetrate deep, they create permanent channels through compacted layers, allowing water and air to follow long after the root itself has moved through. But the root's journey doesn't just mechanically break up soil, it also exudes compounds that feed beneficial bacteria and fungi, creating thriving microbial communities along its path. What makes comfrey truly revolutionary is its rapid above-ground growth. Those massive leaves aren't just photosynthesizing energy, they're pumping up potassium, phosphorus, and trace minerals from deep earth and concentrating them in tissue that breaks down quickly when cut. So, if you practice the chop and drop method, simply cutting leaves and laying them around other plants, you're actually creating a nutrient-rich mulch that rivals any fertilizer. As this organic matter decomposes, it feeds earthworms and microorganisms that transform it into stable humus, the dark, carbon-rich substance that gives healthy soil its structure and vitality. Now, alfalfa complements Comfrey's vertical mining operation with its own underground magic. As a legume, alfalfa forms a symbiotic partnership with rhizobium bacteria that colonize nodules on its roots. These microscopic allies capture atmospheric nitrogen, a process called nitrogen fixation, and convert it into forms plants can use. This biological alchemy means that alfalfa doesn't just feed itself, it fertilizes everything around it. When alfalfa plants eventually die back or you cut them, that fixed nitrogen becomes available to neighboring plants without any synthetic inputs required. The extensive branching root system simultaneously improves soil structure, creating aggregates that hold both moisture and air in perfect balance, while preventing erosion even on slopes. Moving on to herb number 3 and number 4, the true ecosystem engineers. Yarrow represents a different approach to soil building, one that really recognizes the profound connection between what happens above ground and the invisible universe below. This hardy, drought-tolerant herb creates umbrella-like clusters of flowers that attract an astonishing diversity of beneficial insects, predatory wasps, hoverflies, ladybugs, and honestly, countless pollinators. This above-ground biodiversity cascades downward. More insects mean more activity, more organic matter, and more nutrients cycling through the system. The plant's fine, spreading roots create a dense network just below the surface, binding soil particles together and preventing erosion while simultaneously improving infiltration during heavy rains. Yarrow's status as a dynamic accumulator shouldn't be overlooked either. Its roots gather trace minerals, copper, magnesium, and others, from throughout the soil profile and concentrate them in its tissues. When leaves and stems die back naturally, or when you harvest them for mulch, these minerals return to the surface layer where they become available to plants with shallower roots. The plant's lacy foliage also provides living mulch, shading the soil surface and moderating temperature extremes that can damage delicate soil organisms. Now, stinging nettle might seem an unlikely hero with its defensive hairs that deliver an uncomfortable sting, but this misunderstood plant ranks among the most powerful soil regenerators on Earth. Like comfrey, nettle accumulates nutrients with remarkable efficiency, particularly nitrogen and iron, pulling them from throughout the soil and concentrating them in its lush foliage. The growth rate of healthy nettle stands is genuinely impressive. You can harvest multiple times per season, each time gaining abundant material for composting, mulching, or brewing into liquid fertilizer. Lovage completes our quintet with perhaps the most underappreciated talent in perennial herbs, the ability to physically restructure damaged soil through sheer root power. This tall, celery-scented herb develops a robust taproot that drives deep into compacted earth, fracturing hardpan layers that would stop lesser plants cold. Over seasons and years, lovage roots create permanent highways for water movement, dramatically improving infiltration while reducing runoff and erosion. The plant's substantial above-ground growth provides living mulch and windbreaks, moderating the microclimate while its eventual decomposition adds substantial organic matter. The story of why these remarkable plants faded from common knowledge parallels the broader transformation of agriculture over the past century. As farming industrialized, the focus shifted toward maximizing short-term yields through annual monocrops, synthetic fertilizers, and mechanical tillage. Perennial systems that built fertility gradually seemed inefficient compared to the immediate gratification of chemical inputs. Traditional knowledge about dynamic accumulators and nitrogen fixers was dismissed as superstition, or, at best, outdated. The ecological cost of this shift has been staggering. Topsoil loss, declining soil organic matter, disrupted carbon cycles, and dependence on fossil fuel-derived inputs. These 5 herbs offer home gardeners something profoundly important: a pathway back to regenerative practices that work with natural systems rather than against them. They don't require annual replanting, intensive management, or external inputs. They simply grow year after year, quietly building the foundation of fertility that sustains everything else. Integrating these forgotten perennial herbs into your garden requires surprisingly little effort. Start small if your space is limited. Even a single comfrey plant in a large container will produce abundant mulch material, while its roots improve the soil structure within that confined space. For those with garden beds, consider positioning comfrey and lovage at edges or corners where their substantial growth won't shade smaller plants, then use their harvested foliage as mulch throughout the growing area. Alfalfa works beautifully in perennial borders or as living pathways between garden beds, fixing nitrogen while providing attractive foliage. Yarrow thrives in the toughest conditions, hot, dry spots where other plants struggle, making it perfect for stabilizing slopes or filling awkward spaces. Stinging nettle, despite its reputation, can be managed easily by harvesting regularly or containing it in designated areas where its aggressive growth becomes an asset rather than a nuisance. The transformation these plants create isn't instant, but it's profound. Within a single season, you'll notice soil becoming easier to work, retaining moisture better, and supporting more vigorous plant growth. Over years, depleted earth evolves into rich living soil with complex structure, abundant earthworms, and that distinctive earthy smell of healthy humus. This isn't just about growing better vegetables or flowers. It's about participating in regeneration, sequestering atmospheric carbon back into stable soil reserves, and creating habitat that supports the web of life our survival depends upon. If this guide has opened your eyes to the potential of forgotten perennial herbs, please subscribe to Smart Garden and share this with fellow gardeners who are ready to transform their approach to soil building. Leave a comment about your own experiences with these plants or other forgotten allies you've discovered. Together we're not just growing gardens, we're cultivating a soil legacy that will nourish generations to come.